Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Vyasadi Gaura Bhaktarani. Hare Krishna. We will be discussing today Srimad Bhagavad-Gita Chapter 7 Text 16 Translation. O best among the Bharatas, Arjuna, four kind of pious men render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Unlike the miscreants, there are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called Sukritina, or those who obey the rules and regulations of scriptures, the moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these, there are four classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, and those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the Absolute Truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service on different conditions. These are not pure devotees, because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for the devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu defines pure devotion thus: one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. When these four kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of the pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come into contact with the pure devotee, also becomes pure devotees. Those who are always busy with the fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress, and at the time associate with pure devotees and become in their distress devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of a God, and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, and thus they transcend knowledge to the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money are free from all material desires, and when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with the spiritual improvement, they can become pure devotees. As long as such purified state is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, and they search after mundane knowledge, etc. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. Text 17 Translation. Of these, the wise one who is in full knowledge in union with me, though pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. Free from all contaminations of material desires, the distressed, the inquisitive, the penniless, and the seekers after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. But out of them, he who is knowledge of the Absolute Truth and free from all material desires become a really pure devotee of the Lord. And of the four orders, the devotee who is in full knowledge and is at the same time engaged in devotional service is, Lord says, the best. By searching after knowledge, one realizes that his self is different from the material body, and when further advanced, he becomes to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. When one is fully purified, he realizes that the constitutional position is to be eternal servant of God. So by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive, the distressed, the seeker after material, and the man in knowledge all come themselves pure. But the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge of Supreme Lord and is at the same time executing devotional service is very dear to the Lord. He who is situated in pure knowledge of the transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so protected in devotional service that the material contamination cannot touch him. Text 18 Translation. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me I consider verily to dwell in me. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he attains me. It is not that other devotees who are less complete in knowledge are not dear to the Lord. The Lord says that all the magnanimous becomes anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called Mahatma or a great soul. The devotee who wants some benefits out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of the affection they ask the Lord for some material benefit, and when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. But the devotee in full knowledge is considered to be very dear to the Lord because his only purpose is to serve the Lord with the love and devotion. Such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, a Supreme Lord is very fond of his devotee and cannot be separated from him. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord says, "The devotee are always in my heart, and I am always in the heart of the devotees. The devotee does not know anything beyond me, and I also cannot forget the devotee." There is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch, and therefore they are very much dear to me. Hare Krishna. Text 19 translation. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders into me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals, after many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some learning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that the Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not dependent from him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of a spiritual vegetarianness and realizes that in everything there is a relationship with Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva or Sri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrendered souls or great souls are very rare. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter of Swatara Upanishad. In this body there are powers of speaking, of seeing, of hearing and mental activities, etc. But these are not important if not related to Supreme Lord. And because Vasudeva is all pervading and everything is Vasudeva, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Text 20 translation. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender into demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Those who are freed from all material contamination surrender unto the Supreme Lord and engage in his devotional service as long as material contamination is not completely washed off. They are by nature non-devotees, but even those who have material desires and who resort to the Supreme Lord are not so much attracted by external nature. Because approaching the right goal, they soon become free from all material lust. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that whether one is free from all material desires or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from material contamination, or is a pure devotee and has no desire for material sense gratification, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him. It is said in Bhagavatam that less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in particular modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore worship various demigods following the rules and regulations of worship. This satisfies the worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But devotee of the Supreme Lord is not misguided, because in Vedic literature there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purposes. Example, deceased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purpose demigods are better than the Supreme Lord, but a pure devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is a master of all. Chaitanya Chaitamrita, it is said that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is a master of all other our servants, Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to the demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. Text 21 translation. I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship the demigods, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to some particular deity. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have a material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as a super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives the facilities to such person. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, He does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desire. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world, and so let them fall into the trap of illusionary energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord is a super soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, He gives everyone full independence, whatever one lacks, but His ultimate instruction we find in Bhagavad-Gita, man should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto Him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinates to the will of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigods by his own desires, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the Supreme Will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such as demigod. For example, a deceased person is recommended to worship a sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddesses of Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in Shastras, Vedic scriptures for a different modes of worship of a different demigod. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, and so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of devotional attitude of the living entity towards a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because He is Supreme Lord or a Super Soul, He is present in the heart of all living entities. Krishna gives impetus to a man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, Taittiriya Upanishad, first Anukva, it is stated the Supreme Personality of God as a Super Soul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, He arranges through the demigods to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Text 22 translation. Endowed with such a faith, he seeks favors of particular demigods and obtain his desires. But in actually, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. The demigods cannot award benediction to the devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget, so the worship of a demigod and achievement of a desired results are not due to the demigods but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By arrangement, the less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly gives to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord, asking for material benefit. However, he is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigod usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by a living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in the desires. Devotional service of the Supreme Lord and worship of the demigod cannot be on the same platform because worship of a demigod is material and development of service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desire to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefit desired by less intelligent living entity, who prefers to worship demigod of the spiritual world, material world, rather than the engage in a devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Text 23 translation. Men of a small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Some commentators on the Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord, but here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigod go to the different planetary system where various demigods are situated, just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or the worshipper of demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here, for it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the Supreme Planet of Personality of Godhead. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they do not know what part of body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. This isn't very genuine. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. On their ignorance, they believe that each and every demigod is separate God and the competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are demigods part of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also known. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Brahmanas are the head of the Supreme Lord, the Kshatriyas are the arms, etc., and that all serve different functions regardless of the situation. If one knows that both the demigod and himself are part and parcel of Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he does not understand this, he achieves the different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same distinction the devotee reaches. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable, because with this material world, the planets, the demigods or their worshippers are also perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshipping demigods are perishable, and therefore such a worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna Consciousness in devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal bliss, existence that is full of knowledge. His achievements and those of the common worshipper of the God, demigod are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, His favor is unlimited, His mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of a Supreme Lord upon His pure devotee is unlimited. Text 24 translation. Unintelligent men who know me not think that I have assumed this form and personality due to their small knowledge. They do not know my higher nature, which is changeless and supreme. Those who are worshippers of demigods have been described as a less intelligent persons, and here the impersonalists have a similarly described. Lord Krishna in his personal form is here speaking before Arjuna, and still due to ignorance, impersonalists argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. Yamunacharya, a great devotee of Lord in the disciplinic successions of Ramanujacharya, has written two very appropriate verses in this connection. He says, "My dear Lord, devotees like Vyasadeva and Narada know you to be the personality of Godhead. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form and your activities, and one can thus understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, the demons and the non-devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However, expert such non-devotees may be discussing Vedanta and Upanishads and other Vedic literatures. It is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that personality of Godhead cannot be understood simply by studying of Vedanta literature. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the personality of Supreme be known. Therefore, in this verse, it is clearly stated that not only the worshippers and demigods are less intelligent, but those who non-devotees who are engaged in Vedanta and speculation on a Vedic literature without any tinge of true Krishna consciousness are also less intelligent. And for them it is not possible to understand God's personal nature. Persons who are under the impression that the absolute truth is impersonal are described as asuras. which means one who does not know the ultimate feature of absolute truth is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated the supreme realization begins from the impersonal Brahman and then raises to the localized Supersoul, but the ultimate word in the absolute truth is personality of Godhead. Modern impersonalists are still less intelligent, for they do not even follow their great predecessor, Shankaracharya, who especially stated that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Impersonalists, therefore, not knowing the supreme truth, think Krishna to be only the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, or a prince or a powerful living entity. This is also condemned in Bhagavad-Gita. Only the fools regard me as an ordinary person. The fact is that no one can understand Krishna without rendering a devotional service and without developing a Krishna consciousness. In the Bhagavad-Gita it confirms one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna or his form, quality, name simply by mental speculation or by discussing Vedic literature. One must understand him by devotional service when one is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, beginning chanting of Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, then only can understand Supreme Personality of Godhead. Non-devotee impersonalists think that Krishna has a body made of this material nature and that all his activities, his forms and very thing are Maya. These impersonalists are known as Mayavadi. They do not know the ultimate truth. The 28th verse clearly states, those who are blinded by lusty desires surrender into the different demigods. It is accepted that beside the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are demigods who have their different planets. And the Lord also has a planet. It is also stated in the worshippers of the demigods go to the different planets of the demigods. And those who are devotees of Lord Krishna go to the Krishna Loka planet. Although this is clearly stated, the foolish impersonalists still maintain that the Lord is formless and that these forms are a composition. From the Gita study, it appears that the demigods and their abodes are impersonal. Clearly, neither the demigods nor Krishna, the Supreme God of Personality of Godhead, are impersonal. They are all persons. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he has his own planet and the demigods have their own. Therefore, the monastic connection with ultimate truth is formless and that form is imposed does not hold true. It is clearly stated here that it is not imposed. From the Gita, we can clearly understand that the forms of the demigods and the forms of the Supreme Lord are simultaneously existing and that Lord Krishna is Satchidananda, eternal bliss knowledge. The Vedas also confirm that Supreme Absolute Truth is Anandamaya, or full of blissful pleasure, and that he is Abhyasa, by nature the reservoir of unlimited auspicious qualities. And the Gita, the Lord says that although he is Aja, unborn, he still appears. There are the facts that we should understand from the Gita. We cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be impersonal. The imposition theory of the impersonalist monist is false as far as the statement of the Gita are concerned. It is clear herein that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Krishna, has both form and personality. Which ends the text 24 translation of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita of Chapter 7. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Keep listening.